there's nothing more soothing seeing that your routine hasn't changed.
I mean, if the flight attendants are suddenly not doing the things that flight attendants always do, then you're like, what's going on?
Yep, when they tell them to sit down and stop drink service, I'm like, uh-oh,
Yes,
it's gonna be
exactly.
bad.
Yes. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Out and About podcast where we break down all things marketing and financial services. So we always say, whether you've been in this seat your whole career or you're just handed the social media accounts and told to go, we've got your back. And I know we've had a little bit of a hiatus, but we're so excited to bring back these conversations. And today I have with me Amanda, our fabulous copy director. So, Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself really fast for those who haven't gotten to hear from you or know what you're all about?
Yeah, sure. I am still fairly new to the team. So I'm Amanda Rohde. I am the copy director. So all things words that are happening for our clients, I am involved in that. And then my background is longtime freelance content strategist, writer, with a real focus in financial services and fintech. So really excited to be here.
Yes, those who haven't met Amanda might or have been around with us for a while might know that I sat in that seat for a while and moved into strategy, and I'm so excited to have your experience. We've had such a good time already just bantering and finding new ideas and uncovering really great things for our clients. So, we have a really fun topic to talk about, and we were just saying that we want to keep this, at a reasonable length, and we shall see how it goes because there's a lot to cover. And I say that every time, so people are probably like, okay, cool. But I think this is going to be a fun topic. Obviously, if you're listening, you already have seen the title of the show, so you probably know what it's about. But it's funny because it's like hyper timely, but also super evergreen. Um, so we're going to talk about kind of crisis management, but also just when to communicate, how to communicate through tough stuff with your clients. So this can be global geopolitical crises all the way down to like local flooding in the street that your firm is on, what the market is doing, just how do we communicate in sort of tougher times. Even just market volatility, which by the word volatility means it goes up and down. Things are changing, but sometimes things kind of dip a little bit and then the headlines freak out. And when do we communicate and how do we communicate? So, as we're sort of bringing the podcast back, we're always starting with a sort of burning question, what's hot? And so that's what's hot because right now, as we're recording, it's the end of April and it's been an April. It's been
It sure has.
time out there. So, do you have any initial thoughts, Amanda, about all this and kind of what precipitated this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen the headlines. Obviously, if you are in financial services, you're well aware, but even if you're not, your clients who might not be the most involved in what's happening on their portfolio on a day-to-day, are seeing these headlines about oil price spikes, what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz, inflation, tariff back and forth. There's so much going on, even the AI conversation separately, aside from geopolitical news. Um, and it's normal for people to see all that and get kind of panicky. So even if you're not hearing from people, it's very possible that they might be feeling it internally. Um, and so what makes marketing and communications different in times of volatility or uncertainty? Um, and how do you strike that balance between being proactive but not putting out communications that accidentally incite fear? Um,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Amanda has provided so many details. If you see me going over here, it's because I have so much good copy from our amazing copy director. Um, but that's exactly the question I think on the table, the burning question. And so I feel like the whole point of the podcast is to bring you into our conversations with our clients. And this is a lot of what we've been talking about. Some of our clients are like, oh my gosh, we've been so busy. People are calling every day. And other clients are like, no one's called. Does that mean it's on their minds? Is it not on their minds? Like, and again, as by the time this goes out, who knows where the conversation around all those things that you just mentioned, oil and Iran and all that, who knows where that will be? Who knows what's coming next? We just, we don't know. And that's the tricky part. So, and I think the struggle is just to sort of lay it out is a lot of our clients, a lot of people listening, your financial advisors and your job is to sort of level, keep the steady, calm waters. I'm trying to think of the right metaphor, but it's all just the peace and the calm. Like that's your job is, we've got you covered. Everything that we're doing when we're communicating for clients is about confidence and peace. And like, how do we say that without saying it all the time? Trust and um, steadiness and all of that. So then these things come up. And like you said, how do you communicate? How do you know when to communicate without causing more chaos? Because I think sometimes in the firm, our thought is like, look, we've seen worse. We've been through bigger, right? Like, this is not a big deal. The whole purpose, maybe that's not the right word, but the reason that advisors advise is because they're like, we've watched the market do what the market does for all this time. This is why we're advising you. We can't predict the future, but we've seen what's happened. And so we're trying not to react to the headlines, but
Yeah.
then our headlines, you know?
Well, and it's easier said than done because you're also dealing with just the behavioral aspect of
Exactly.
how humans operate. We all know rationally looking at the numbers, don't pull out of the market, you'll miss those best days. Like, this is something that you can say to somebody, but that doesn't change the way that they feel.
I
And
know. And also there's the next layer down. So there's like, okay, we don't time the market, da, 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 but it's like also, well, I was going to retire next year. Should I wait another year? Like, there's the next level of like, okay, but what about my finances? Like, okay, the market's cool, that's fine. But now, will I still be able to afford to send my child to college, in 4 years or whatever? Like, is that getting messed up? Like, there's the specific questions. And then that's the geopolitical, that's wars and all those things. But then there's also, again, like I said, weather events. We have
yeah.
clients that have walked through wildfires and hurricanes and all of those. And so then, how are you communicating again the next level of like, okay, so next year is going to be fine, but what about next week? You know, what about insurance and all of that? So that's where do you want to start? Where should we start with like how do we communicate? How do we know when to communicate?
I mean, I think when we've been talking about it internally, we're just talking about sort of that idea of everything being a balancing act. Like you're balancing communication with silence. Like
Yeah.
when do you want to speak up about the volatility and when do you just want to sort of let it ride? Um, and then there's balancing sort of care with action. You don't want to seem flippant. You don't want to rush to put out a statement that you're going to regret later. So you want to center that care, but you also don't want to be passive when you should be saying something.
Mhm.
Similarly, like balancing action and alarm, you don't want to say something that might spark that fear unnecessarily. It's like that famous thing of if you say to somebody, I don't want to freak you out, but the first thing they're going to do is absolutely panic,
Yeah.
understandably so. Um, so you don't want it's about framing what you're saying as something that is more positive, something that doesn't feel like I don't want to freak you out, but
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
and then balancing sort of your plan with reality. If you have a cadence established, you have posts that are already ready to go out, being cognizant of what you have already lined up and how that might be impacted by what's happening in real time. And do you need to adjust what you already have planned? Is it still appropriate, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the scheduled. Let's talk a little more about that because I think that as we're talking here, it seems like this may be way too, maybe this is just way too pragmatic, But, trying to figure out when should we communicate, how should we communicate? If you already have some good plans in place, like I'm already thinking like, especially market volatility and like we were talking oil prices and all of this, if you're already putting out like a chief investment officer, a note from them or a video from them or just a market update, like usually a lot of our clients, it's a quarterly statement of some kind from the firm. If you're already doing that, that's a really nice, just like, um, I don't know, cadence. Like the clients are expecting it. There's enough time that like you probably don't have to say something in those in-betweens, So like you've made a quarterly statement, wrapped up what you need to talk about. Some war starts somewhere halfway in between that. You still have 6 weeks or 4 weeks, 6 weeks in between that before the next one's coming out. This is what I'm trying to say. So you don't have to rush it. So if that's what I'm trying to say is if you have that nice cadence going, you can feel like, okay, that will just wrap up in our next our next market update. So you're not feeling rushed. And the same with everything. If you're already doing, some sort of weekly social media post about something or uh, my brain just stopped. Monthly newsletter. That's the other thing, right? Like if you're already in the cadence of a monthly newsletter going out to all your prospects and all your clients with some kind of not statement, it sounds too official, but some sort of commentary from the firm, again, that's a nice little place to just know that that's where you're going to drop it. And uh, yeah, you don't have to feel like you're scrambling. And then, like you said, are we causing more alarm? Then, if everyone's used to the town crier on a regular basis, then the town crier is not so scary.
Well, and
Just
even
showed
just
up.
exactly retaining that consistency can be a source of calm in
Right,
and of itself. Like,
right.
there's nothing more soothing than seeing that your routine hasn't changed. So, if you
Mhm.
expect to see something in your inbox as a client from your financial advisor every other week, and it's still coming despite headlines, there is that sort of like, well, they're not worried, so I'm not worried.
Right.
It's like when you're on a flight and you start to go through turbulence, and like if the flight attendants look calm, you're like, it's not a big deal. We're gonna make it.
But at the same time, if the flight attendants are suddenly not doing the things that flight attendants always do, then you're like, what's going on?
Yep, when they tell them to sit down and stop drink service, I'm like, uh-oh,
Yes,
it's gonna be
exactly.
bad.
Yeah, it's about to get real. So yeah, I think just that's maybe the biggest takeaway right now so far is just have a communications cadence, then you're ready for whatever you need to throw out there. Because I was just thinking, imagine the flip side. If you get an email from your advice that who never emails,
Yep,
and it's some official email that's like, statement on the war and wherever, they're like, what?
yeah.
Like, what is this official statement? But if it's just, you're just used to that, then it's just part of the cadence. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty here about the like, I don't want to freak you out. I think that's brilliant. I want to dive into that a little bit because I know I just shared something recently on social about something similar. Like, we don't want to start a conversation by framing the negative. Like, we don't want to get them there already emotionally and then try to pull back.
Yep.
So, how do you have any recommendations or how do you want to talk through this? Like, how should we frame things?
I mean, I think it's leading with sort of the core of who you are and what your firm stands for. So
Mhm.
if your brand voice and your brand personality is a calm, guiding voice who's here to create a plan and help you stick to it for the long haul, go back to that. And how does that inform what you're going to say about short-term volatility? Um, it's really core to what you do anyway. So sort of center that in your messaging, which is what we tell people to do all the time. But sometimes
Yeah.
when headlines are coming up, it's harder to apply the framework that you typically rely on to that headline for yourself too.
Oh, it's critical. It's critical. I mean, that's why I think you and I were recently talking or somewhere about like even like the difference between voice and tone, right? So like it's okay for the tone if it needs to shift. I mean, if there's really something going on, like I think again, like the wildfires in the backyard of some of our
Yeah.
clients, couple years ago or things like that, like there is going to be a little tone of like things are intense, right? But your voice doesn't need to change. Your like underlying message, what we're trying to communicate every time we talk, that should always remain the same. Yeah, I think that's critical. I could say that over and over. Something
Yeah.
I always want to preach. I also think that starting with the facts is helpful. So again, so not leading with the emotion of um yeah, I don't want to freak you out, or, we don't want to start with like, we just keep getting phone call after phone, just that emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Instead, leading with the facts of like, well, the market has been, I don't know, I'm making up not things, but, like the actual facts of like oil prices are this, or inflation is that, or whatever. And then going on with like, framing it, well, this is what we've seen historically, or this is what we're just seeing on the day to day. Because sometimes, obviously, firms, you can see the bigger picture, and people are just maybe looking at one sort of marker. So, um, yeah, leading with the facts, starting with the facts, and then you can go into the emotion later. But
Yeah. And then even using those facts as a jumping off point for these are the facts, this is what's out of our control, but what's in our control
that's
as your
right.
advisors and as our clients, how can we work together to take steps based on the reality that we're in right now? Um, you know, not panic selling. But what can we do? How can we look for ways to sort of rebalance things that make sense in this current environment?
Yeah. Yeah. We had a client, we were working on that market update, and they said something just, I can't remember exactly how they said it, but it was, or they said it or we said it, whoever wrote it, I don't remember, but it was just very like, but our eyes are always on this, and we're used to watching these things. We're comfortable watching these things, so you don't have to. It's just a really nice way of framing like, look, we're your eyes here. You can go on about your retirement or your life and things with your grandkids, and we'll watch this so that you don't have to stress about it. I thought that was nice. So,
Yeah,
what,
that reassuring
yeah,
voice.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
exactly what you want to hear.
And it's not to say like there's not stuff to watch, right? It's not like we don't want to give a laissez-faire sort of attitude either. Like it's fine, but it's just, we've got you. I also had another client years ago who said, like, we'll take the ulcers for you. And I thought, I hope it's not that bad, but I really like that. Like we'll hold it in our gut.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought that was lovely. So
That's amazing.
yeah. What else? I know you have, so you're sort of highlighting something around. Did you want to go into the visual side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think
That,
I'm obviously the word woman. But it's the same principle applies for across your campaigns, like
yeah,
keeping that visual consistency.
completely.
Uh, don't suddenly start sending out red, bold text
Please don't.
emails.
Please don't.
Um, because again, consistency is calming.
Yeah,
It's reassuring.
absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and yeah, just showing up the same way all the time. Yeah. I mean, just it just shows the business as usual for you, and even when it's not, at least you can kind of give that appearance a little bit. Sort of the duck analogy, right? Like even if you're
Yeah.
floundering, you can kind of just smooth sailing on top. So, um, so what else? I know I have some specific sort of rapid fire questions we're going to get to in just a minute, but what else do we need to think about as far as just the emotional side of things?
I mean, I think where the emotion can most effectively be brought in is not to what you write and put out, but how you approach your own messaging. It's really sort of like centering your own emotional intelligence, and thinking about, it's your job, but for some people, the headlines that they're seeing, and particularly if it's something that's happening locally, it might be affecting them personally. And so it's putting yourself in your audience's shoes and saying, how will a client feel if they receive this? Are they going to feel like I'm saying something that might feel insensitive?
Yeah,
Um, because that's obviously not who you are or what you want to project.
yeah,
Um, so really thinking about the potential recipients of your message, a client who might be experiencing a firsthand, experiencing this crisis firsthand, have a family member that's, and it doesn't, that's true even for not local things.
That's
If you
right.
have family that's in the Middle East right now, you're probably concerned on a personal level about what's happening there. Um, so being aware that your audience is probably diverse. You might have people like that in the mix. And then thinking about what would happen if this email got forwarded to a competitor.
Mhm.
Um, how would somebody that already has kind of a negative perception of the financial services industry
Yeah.
feel reading this? Somebody that thinks like,
Ah,
oh, they're just out to profit on bad things that are happening. You don't want to give somebody
yeah.
ammunition for
I,
that.
I can't think of any examples in our amongst our clientele, which is wonderful, but in other industries, I've seen it where, people are so more in the B2C side, but having sales or things like that because there's a lot of activity or eyes on a certain thing. Again, I don't see that in our field, but it is something to think about, right? Like we don't want anything to feel like we're profiting off of this
Yeah.
or, this isn't the time to ask for sales referrals. Again, I've never seen it, so I can't even say like don't do this because I just don't know that I've seen it amongst the people we work with because the people we work with get into this to care for people. Um, but it is something to consider. You never know. There's probably some person out there who would think think, can sell some insurance today or something. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah, and yeah, anyone affected by the crisis. I think also, we're talking here about kind of mass communication, so an email blast, social media, things like that. Obviously, if you have a client that's affected, I can almost guarantee anyone listening would just pick up the phone and just call that person in particular. So, um, that's obviously a different level of communication. But um, what else? Anything else you want to talk high level?
No, I mean, I think highlighting that last point that you made is really critical too, that there's really something to be said for you are in a client service, high touch business. And if you know that somebody, if you know that personal backstory about one of your clients, it's really a lovely thing to do to pick up that phone and express that direct concern for what they're going through. It goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. One, it can be hard in a political culture when people, might agree with something that's going on around the world or might not agree. But
Yeah.
what I have found, I don't know if this is helping anyone listen, but um, I'll just say, hey, I know this affects your family, and people that you care about, and I just want you to know that I'm, holding them in prayer and thoughts, holding them close. You don't have to comment on anything that's happening
Yep.
in the world. That's probably something we should have added to this is, we probably want to leave politics out unless it's again to your brand voice, if it makes sense. But there's nothing ever wrong with just saying like, hey, this is impacting you. So just wanted you to know, you know,
Well, and I think that goes along with
heard
your point that you made earlier about sticking with the facts. Like the facts are this is happening.
happening.
I know you are being personally affected by it. I am thinking of you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then of course as the advisor, if you need anything, if there's things we can do to support, whatever. I think that's really important. Okay, so we do have, well, we had talked about making them kind of rapid fire, but I don't think they're going to be as rapid fire as we expected. But there's only three, so
We'll do our best.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, actually, I think we've covered these a little bit, but so how do we know where to communicate and what? So, oh, and
Yep.
are you going to mention it? Should I mention it? Our downloadable for this month?
I can plug it.
Yeah.
So we have actually put together a downloadable to address this very question and sort of this topic more broadly. Which, if you are subscribed to our email list, you will receive it. You can subscribe on our website. So when you're thinking about where to communicate, what to say where, like we were just saying, if you have a point of personal connection to, or one of your clients is a point of personal connection that you're aware of to what's going on. A personal phone call or email is really nice. If you're going to send an email blast, that's really appropriate for communicating vital information to your entire client base all at once. Social
Yeah.
media is great if you are looking to connect with an even broader community more immediately. So if there is something that's happening in your region, and say your team is putting together donations for the local food bank because of something that's happened, and you want to kind of put out a, we'll come collect your donations and drive them down to the food bank.
Yep.
Um, that's a great thing to put on social media. And then your blog is sort of content that takes a longer view. Once things have kind of come into focus, don't rush to publish anything on the blog, but when you're able to take a longer view on what's happening, um, what are the facts and what can we do moving forward is great to put on the blog.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple examples that we've seen, especially for the blog, is things like local insurance information, how to file claims and things like that if you're dealing with sort of a local situation. Because there's a lot of that is like state by state, sometimes county by county, weird rules and things. And then the other one is escaping me. So, oh, I know. It was, if you're in a weather prone area, right? Like hurricanes or I don't know, here we've got a lot of tornadoes,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Those like checklists of like what documents do I need? Wildfire fire areas, that's a big one. If you're in a place where there's a lot of wildfires, which documents do I need to have to take with me if I have to, evacuate or things like that? That can be just really helpful. But I think all of those come back to a place of much more about caring about people, community. It's not a sales pitch. It's not, trying to buy something or work with us. It's just we want to be there to help the community. So I think that's important. Um, how do we already said this, how do we bring the brand voice in? Or I should, the better way to ask it is like, how does it get lost in those sort of external communications?
I mean, I think it gets lost when you rush to put something out, um, when you're not, the power of the pause is real, because it gives you a minute to come back to who who are we, what does our brand do, um, and how do we want to speak to this thing.
Mhm.
Um, and so, again, that idea of sort of being flexible with tone when appropriate, but keeping that brand voice really solid.
Yep, absolutely. And we've definitely supported so many clients through this where they're like, okay, we wrote up the facts. Can you just read through this one more time to make sure it's not, it doesn't sound wild. It doesn't sound loaded with emotion or, but not to take away emotion, right? Like compassion is a real emotion, kindness is real, but to make sure that the things don't sound overly stressed, for
Yeah,
lack of a better word. So, um, anything else? Any other questions? Okay.
no.
I know. I should have had a better like boom, boom, boom. I should have been like, Facebook, when do you post there? Um, but let's just remind everyone about that like major step that you just talked about, like the power of the pause, because it does sometimes feel like we need to be getting this out today. And maybe sometimes, I'm thinking of examples where like if the office needs to close, everyone needs to, work from home in the COVID days, like that you do have
Yeah.
to get an email out pretty quickly. But even
Well,
but even there, you have 15 minutes, you have an hour, you know.
and there's a difference between getting out timely information, like our office is not open and you can reach us at this phone number,
Yeah,
versus getting out commentary or something that's more of a perspective.
for sure.
Uh, that's sort of the stuff that you don't want to rush. Like you don't need to beat the New York Times news alert. It's a bad idea.
So,
They're in the business of breaking stories. You are in the business of keeping your clients calm and on the path.
yeah,
So there's no need to feel that pressure. But I mean, easier said than done because social media will get you feeling like you're behind.
Absolutely. But yeah, even then, I mean, like I said, you still have, even if you have to get something out this afternoon, you have 10 minutes, you have 15 minutes, an hour for a colleague to look at it. And
Exactly.
yeah, a trusted, colleague or partner somewhere that can just read it over and, make sure it is communicating what you actually want it to communicate. So
Yep.
fabulous. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
First part, this is the first of many, many. So I'm so excited. Well, like Amanda said, we've put together a whole sort of guide on how to communicate. There's like little checklists, where you can kind of, not second guess, what would be double check yourself.
Double check.
Yeah, yeah. And make sure things feel like you, and then, like she said, kind of a little bit of a guide of where to post what and when and things like that, and things to think about from the finance side as far as compliance and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not already on our email list, make sure you join at outandaboutcommunications.com/community. Just drop your email in there. Super simple. We send things out monthly. And honestly, our team is having so much fun coming up with new resources and new ideas. So highly recommend you
Yeah, that
follow.
resource library is
It grows.
ever growing.
Yeah, yeah, we're constantly on the idea train. Like, let's add this. So definitely hop over there and tune in next time. I can't remember what we're covering, but it's going to be fabulous. And again, we're just all about supporting everyone in the marketing seat in RIAs, in financial services. We know it can be lonely, but we're here to have your back. So until next time, take care.